Hello, so today I'm going to do a video on practical uses for a cheek filter mask, because as you probably know, I'm not a massive fan of these masks. The issue being with cheek filter masks is that they're kind of a redundant design philosophy. Obviously, to give you the quick explanation, before cheek filter masks there were some masks that had permanently attached filters, or at least hard to remove and exchange filters. Some masks that had quick screw-in, screw-out filters. The idea of the cheek filter mask was the idea that you'd have a mask that was more compact, where the filters would sit inside the mask. You could have two filters so the user could breathe more easily for the most part. And that, it would be a more futuristic design choice for a mask. However, the problem with cheek filter masks was the filters inside tended to not last very long. You could not change them without taking the mask off, so you couldn't, hold your breath, swap out the filter canister for another. And in the end they ended up becoming quite bulky and heavy, as you can probably see from the side profile of this mask, for what they actually were. So it was like, one step forward, one step back, and in the end everybody went back to just making better designed removable filter masks. Now, you could argue that masks like the Avon M50 and Scott GSR are kind of a reimagining of the cheek filter mask, because they kind of have a lot of the same design elements, but I wouldn't say they're exactly the same, but the inside cheek filter masks are a bit redundant. Now, what I want to do in this video is try and think up practical uses for the surplus ones, because obviously as I've said before, I would never recommend these for prepping or anything like that. The reason being that cheek filter masks, because as I said, you can't change the filters when they're inside the masks, and more importantly, because all these masks are obsolete designs, you can't buy new filters for these. Yes, you can buy still sealed filters for many of them, just due to the very big production runs, but they're not new filters, so you're buying a filter that's already 20 plus years out of date, having to hope it will last when you put it in, and then you can't change it if it actually runs out when the mask's on your face and you need it. So that's why I'd never recommend them for prepping or very serious use. However, there are uses for these, so what I'm going to go through in this video, hopefully, is things that you might be able to use the mask for. Also, as a side note, let me know how the softbox light works. I've got it a few yards away today. It's really far back, but it seems like it's still lighting me, but hopefully not washing me out. So, let me know how that works. So, the first thing I can think of for using this is like a duster mask. Now, it's a bit over the top for a duster mask, but basically what you need to know is some of these masks come with separate particle filters and charcoal filters. The charcoal filters for NBC use will still work as particle filters because they have to, otherwise you'd inhale the charcoal inside the filter. So, and the NBC bit, the N in it, stands for nuclear, so it's stopping you inhaling irradiated dust. So, basically the idea is that you're going to use these only as particle filter masks, because the idea is obviously that because particle filters don't expire in the same way as charcoal filters do, a particle filter never expires until it gets so clogged up you can't really breathe with the mask on anymore. So you've got plenty of warning that that's going to happen. So the first use for this, which I think would be quite practical, is just using it for like sanding or grinding or anything like that. The mask's going to give you eye protection because you've got obviously the plastic eye bits on it. You can breathe fairly easily with them because you've got the two filters, and obviously it's going to protect you from particles. Another use for one of these masks would be if you actually ever had to use it in a riot situation where there was CS gas or anything like that flying around. Despite its name, CS gas is actually a particle. Masks like this do block, CS gas, tear gas. There's lots of videos in riots where you can see people with surplus cheek filter masks on doing just fine. So yeah, I think that the particle filters in these would be absolutely fine for tear gas. As I said, I'd still prefer a modern mask for that, but, it would work for that, so you've always got these. Protecting from actual fallout, as we were saying, like the irradiated dust and things like that, yeah, that would still work, because, again, it's a particle filter. So what you need to do is think of these masks more as particle filter masks rather than cheek filter masks, or, full NBC masks, I'd say, because for particle filter uses, they might still be appropriate. Now, of course, I would argue that a modern, lightweight, comfortable 3M mask with maybe goggles separately would be better than using one of these just for particle purposes, but whatever. You can get these very cheaply. If you're playing airsoft, if you've got one where you've got the reinforced outserts, like this has got an outsert over the actual lens, then yeah, sure, you could use it for airsoft if you want to. You might want to just be extra careful and look into which masks would offer better protection than others, but if you just wanted a cool face mask for something like that, yeah, it would do that. Movie props. If you wanted NBC soldiers in like your student film or whatever kind of film, you can buy these cheaply, and you could use them for that. So you know, you could use one of these masks in a film, no problem there. If it's very cold weather, you could wear these to keep your face warm. Believe it or not, gas masks are good in the extreme cold. There's even pictures of soldiers on the Eastern Front in World War II wearing gas masks when they don't need to, just to keep their faces warm. So do that. You could even, yeah, if you've got a jacket like this, put the hood over it, and then you've got, you know, your comfy little hood over your mask as well. So yeah, you could do that. And there's probably some other uses of this. Oh, if you're doing sports training, you can use these because it restricts your breath a bit if you're running around, you know, jogging, all that sort of stuff. It gives you a bit more training, you know, working with less oxygen or less air getting into your lungs, so they're always practical for that. If you have got the NBC filters, even though I wouldn't recommend it for an NBC scenario, you could do it when you're working with things that have an unpleasant smell. So if you're cleaning somewhere that smells particularly dirty, it will stop you smelling, you know, like bad smells, things like that. So they're practical for that purpose. If you have the NBC filters, particle filters won't block many smells, because if a smell's vapour, particle filter won't block it. But let's say you're cleaning up animal poo or something like that. Yeah, why not? Wear one of these, it will stop you doing that. Similar to the dust mask idea, if you're working in dusty environments, you know, and you've got allergies like hay fever or whatever, then yes, this will protect your eyes, it will protect your nose and mouth. You can work in a dusty environment doing whatever you want to do, and that will protect you from that. And maybe even if you're working with asbestos or something like that, as much as I'd always recommend a more modern P3, P100 mask for that, this is better than nothing. So if you did decide you were going to cut open a GP5 filter and take the innards out, wear something like this if this was your only other mask you had, you know. Better than nothing. So anyway, maybe that's given you some ideas of what you could do with a particle filter, cheap filter mask, you know. So actually get some use out of them. As I said, I would not recommend these for serious NBC, CBRN survival type uses. But, you know, they're still, I think they look cool, cheap filter masks, don't get me wrong. They've got lots of practical purposes in that regard of, you know, they look cool, and stuff like that. So yeah, if you've got one of these masks, or you see one of these masks cheap, and there's certain DIY type tasks you might want a mask for, then yeah, go ahead. For some of those roles, they're fine, you know, and you could use it as a movie prop. It protects you from somebody spraying pepper spray or tear gas in your face, you know, anything like that. So they do have practical roles. It's just compared to a modern mask that gives full CBRN protection, that's easy to swap out CBRN filters, it offers you far, far less protection, but these aren't totally useless. You can find uses for them. So hopefully this video has been helpful. If you've got a cheap filter mask or you're thinking of getting one, you can actually go, oh yeah, I could use the mask to do that. There's probably more things that I've not covered you could do with them as well, but there you go.